So I don't know about y'all, but at first I wasn't gonna watch it. Like I was not gonna watch the special on Netflix. This was the first time Netflix ever went live with a special. I was not gonna watch it, and the reason why I wasn't gonna watch it because I am a Chris Rock fan. I like before this special, I would have told you Chris Rock was a top five for me, top five comedian, stand up. But the reason why I didn't want to watch this was because I had already seen it, right? Like he did his tour. Remember when the slap happened, he already had a tour planned. Luckily for me, I had bought my tickets pre-slap. So we got our tickets like super cheap. I don't know, it was like $60 or something stupid cheap, right? So we got our tickets early. But then when the slap happened, everybody was like, oh man, we gotta, his prices went up and all that. So he came to Chicago. It was kind of crazy because he literally was wearing the same outfit that he was in the special. And he did his set. And it was cool. It wasn't like his best work, you know. It wasn't Bring the Pain, like it was all right. It was all right. And he did talk about the slap when he came to Chicago. Now, again, before this, I would have told you he was top five. Before this, because I loved his HBO specials. I mean, Chris Rock, especially in the 90s, he was doing this thing. That ain't the case no more. I did not find this special funny. There were a couple funny parts. And for me, like I didn't care for his tambourine special, and I think he did something else in between that. Like he's just falling off. Like whatever the thing is that used to give him that edge, it's missing. It's gone. And like now for me, he was in my top five. Now he's kind of like top 10, 15, somewhere around there. But I know a lot of people were talking about the final joke, right? At the very end. And again, this was something that I was kind of like, I'm not going to watch this because I've seen it already. I heard the joke already. So there's nothing in it. But I kept seeing all people like really hyping it up. And it was like, oh my gosh, he came for Will and all this. So I actually went and watched it and listened to it. And I was just like, I don't know. He lost his edge. I mean, think about it like this. He messed up the joke at the end, right? The concussion emancipation one. He messed that up. But that's what happens when you're live. Okay, whatever. I'm not tripping. And let me also be clear on this too. I am not one of those people that are going to say he's not allowed to joke about other people. I'm not here for that. I really do believe that if you're a comedian, you are entitled to go and roast, drag, go after folks. Do what you got to do. You got to criticize society. Do it. Right? I'm here for that. I am very, very okay with comedians going out there because that's their job, pointing out certain things, making jokes about it. I'm fine with that. At the same time, I'm going to let you know if it's funny or not, right? Because sometimes just because you got that freedom to go and say certain things does not mean that it's actually funny. Y'all remember Buddy from Seinfeld, Kramer? Kramer, when he was out there and he was, just going on a rant like he's an N-word, he's an N-word, and he got canceled and all that stuff. Like, bro, I'm here for you to go out and say that kind of stuff, but I'm also here for you to get canceled and just like put on timeout because it wasn't funny, right? You can say what you want to say, but it wasn't funny. So with Chris Rock, what he said, when it came to Will and Jada, I was totally 110% here for him to come at Will. He deserved it, right? You smack this man on national television, embarrass him in front of friends, family, colleagues, his mama, family, all of that. And no amount of apologies from Will Smith might be enough to make Chris Rock satisfied. I understand that. I'm not. Chris, go at him. Say what you got to say. Now, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny because while he was joking on Will, a lot of people were tripping about Chris going out of his way to call Jada the B word, right? A lot of people were upset about that. And to be honest, again, I'm not going to sit here and police what he can or can't say. He can say that. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. I personally thought it was unnecessary, right? I don't think he had to say it. But then I was also thinking about, like, I think he said what he said because he was still scared of Will Smith, because he did keep her name out of his mouth. You know, but like, to me, I'm thinking like, you should have made a joke about that, right? Like, you should have said like, okay, I'm gonna keep her name out my mouth. This do, you know, like, at least you could have made it a joke. And the reason why it didn't land as a joke, if he meant it that way, was because he didn't set it up as a joke. Now I'm about to get into my critic mind. I'm gonna put my critic hat on. I know some of y'all people out there that are like, man, it was just a joke. Just take it out. You don't have to think so deep. I'm a critic. I can think about what I want. His joke got compromised because he got emotional. If you notice during his set, this is why he flubbed up his joke. This is why it got messed up. He started getting emotional and stopped being a comedian. He started ranting rather than executing, right? This is why he started calling her out her name. This is why he messed up his delivery. This is why all that happened. And to me, again, this is where I'm like, Chris, you're better than this. But the problem I have, and this is probably the only real critique I have about his joke, and it was the one at the end. It was the concussion emancipation one. Now, he started off saying, and I'm sorry if this is a spoiler. So if you don't want to hear the joke, you know, this is spoiler territory. So he makes the joke about, you know, he used to be a fan of Will Smith, and he was such a fan that after the slap, now he basically started rooting for Massa to beat on him during emancipation. So think about this. You got to a point where you were like, man, beat him down. You started rooting for the slave master to beat the other black man. Now, here's the thing. That joke, I thought, was funny. I thought it was funny because that's an extreme, right? You're talking about, man, you dislike this dude so much, you willing to say, where's my black card? Here you go. Go, Massa, go. Right? I get the joke. I laughed. I thought that was funny. It wasn't until the last joke that kind of set me off. Then he finishes off his whole thing by saying, however, my parents raised me better not to fight in front of white people. And he drops the mic. First of all, why'd you drop the mic? Pick that back up. That was not a mic drop moment. And I'm going to tell you the reason why it was not a mic drop moment is because you literally compromised yourself right there. In other words, you mean to tell me that your parents told you or raised you not to fight in front of white people? I want you to think about what this means, because I know when we laughing, we don't think. When we laughing, we don't care, and that's fine. You don't have to. If you think it's funny, that's cool. I like to think. And for me, I was just like, man, Chris, you compromised your own blackness within your own comedy set. Because if you had left it on the emancipation joke, that would have been fine. Or if you took that out and then you brought up your black parent thing, that would have been fine. But the problem that ended up happening was you sat here and said You don't want to fight in front of white people, which means that you look for white validation for your actions. And that's a whole different discussion I'm not going to get into. So you value the perception of white gaze, Gaze, but you still have no problem rooting for a black man to be beaten by a slave master. In one hand, you're saying, I have all this integrity, this black integrity. But then right before that, you said you cool with watching the slave master beat on the black man. And by the way, because of the fact that we have receipts, we didn't forget what you said. I'm not going to play it here, but we're not going to forget about the time that you and Louis C.K. and Ricky Gervais and Jerry Seinfeld were sitting in a room and you encouraged these white guys to use the N-word with the hard ER and crack jokes about it. And it's so funny that you being the only black man in that room, the only person that didn't want to talk about the N-word was Jerry Seinfeld. I had so much respect for Jerry Seinfeld because he was like, yeah, I just never found any humor in the word. So I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to say it. I don't want to use it. And Chris Rock was like, come on. Just go ahead and say it. Say the N-word. No, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, we say the N-word all the time. N-word, N-word, N-word. It's like, brother, do you really care about how white people view you that much? Because again, you can't sit here and tell me my parents raised me not to fight in front of white people, but then did they teach you to give them the N-word pass too? Did they teach you to go ahead and root for Massa too? So that's where, for me, Chris compromised his own joke, right? Again, you might not think that. Maybe you laughed it off. Maybe you didn't think about it. That's fine. I'm just talking about for me, right? And the thing is that I also started to notice how over time, if we look at the beginning of Slapgate, I think a wide variety, I think a large majority of people were on Chris Rock's side. I think a lot of people was like, yo, Will was bogus, which he was. Chris Rock didn't deserve it. We're on Team Chris, right? And during the special, I was just like, you let your emotions get the best of you. And while you let your emotions get the best of you, your emotions compromised your comedy set, and you compromised yourself and your black integrity within your own joke. And it got to the point where you actually started seeing other people turning on Chris Rock. You actually saw people out there being like, nah, Will should have smacked him again. Like, people literally did a 180 on Chris Rock, the guy that was a victim and smacked. People was like, nah, now we see why people want to smack you. Now, I'm not taking no sides in this. In my opinion, Will did something bogus. The least he could do was try to make amends. He said he's reached out. He's written a letter. He's done a video. He's put himself out there. He's accepted it. I get that. So that's all you can really do. Chris, I was like, yo, you got a whole comedy set. Make your money. Ride this ride. It's a little sad that after a year, this was the best joke you came up with. A year? Like, you a whole pro. And a year. This is why I can't really keep him in my top 5. Because I know if you get, and this is probably unfair to even say, but if you had given Dave Chappelle a year to think about a joke about the slap, Dave would have dropped us some fire. Okay? Anyway. let's do some actual news follow up. So, one question that a lot of people have is like, yo, like after all of this, now what? What's up with Will, right? Well, according to sources, Will Smith is embarrassed and hurt over Chris Rock's comments in the Netflix special. The sources say Will is embarrassed and hurt by what Chris said about him and his family in the Netflix special. He didn't watch it, but he had people tell him what Chris said, according to this insider. Will and Jada have seen comments about it. All right. All right. So, you know, that's expected. I could totally understand that, right? I totally get that Will would not want to watch it. I wouldn't want to watch it either if I was Will Smith. But I just brought that up because like I bet you it's gonna be a red table talk real soon. I told you that this was gonna happen eventually one day. It's gonna be a red table talk, and they gonna talk. I don't know. If they want the ratings, Chris got to show up. They got to pay Chris a couple $1,000,000, something crazy. But if they were smart, and I'm talking about Chris and Will and Jada, they need to make that a televised event, and everybody they need to just make it a pay-per-view. If there was Jada, take this idea, make it a pay-per-view. I guarantee you, people go tune in. I know we're gonna be tired of it, but people go tune in. I'm talking about the business side of things. That's all. But anyway, what is so funny about this is that, and I never, y'all, when I tell you, you couldn't pay me money to believe that I would ever say this in my life. Marlon Wayans had a better stand-up comedy show than Chris Rock. I could not believe this. I was in utter shock. Now, I am one of those people that is a fan of Marlon Wayans in some things. I'm not a fan of like his goofy slapstick humor. So, like, I like them in the Wayans Brothers. I like him in some movies, but overall, I'm not like a huge fan of his style of comedy. And his stand-up has never really been that funny to me. But this right here on HBO Max is probably the man's best work I've ever seen. This thing was hilarious. And on top of that, remember I told you Chris Rock had a whole year to come up with a joke and all this stuff, and that was it. Marlon made his whole set about Chris, Will, and Jada, and himself. And it was phenomenal. I was just like, bro, this was a great show. Like this, I'm shocked that of all comedians, I would have lost so much money if you would have told me who's a better comedian, who's gonna have a better stand-up, Chris Rock or Marlon Wayans. I'm putting my house on Chris Rock. What? And we would have been homeless because Marlon Wayans proved me completely wrong. Go watch that if you have not seen it. That is absolutely 110% recommended. Go watch Marlon Wayans, God Loves Me on HBO Max. His absolute best work. And I'm not saying, listen, I'm not saying this is the best thing ever. I'm saying it's his best work. Out of all the comedy stand-up he's done, this is his, relatively speaking, best work. All right, that's all. Whew. All right. What do y'all think about the Chris Rock Slapgate? What did you think about the special? Um, like I said, if y'all enjoyed it, that's fine. If y'all did, don't want to think deep about it, that's fine. Like, I'm a critic. I analyze things. I've analyzed Kevin Hart's stand up. I don't go out in public and talk about it, but that's the way my brain works. So, if some people don't want to analyze things, that's okay. Like my channel, my platform, my brain. Y'all gonna get these analytics, analyzations. But anyway, let me know what y'all thought about the Rock special, man. Like, did y'all like it? Did y'all not like it? What were your favorite jokes in it? Have you seen the Marlon special, the Marlon Wayans special? Let me know what you thought. Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Thank you so much for watching. This was just a segment of one of my live chats, and if you're interested in joining in on the next one, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.